Welcome to A Simple Life. Today is going to be a great day. Well, because it's beautiful out, but we are going to be making some progress on the area where we removed the grapes earlier this year. All right, before we do that, let's take a look at our wild beehive. We captured it a couple weeks ago. There is a gap right in here where there are no frames. There's like maybe 4 empty spots. The rest of it has normal frames on it. I know it's sitting on a trash can. This is where they settled, kind of. This is the area they settled in, so I'm leaving them there for now. All right, let's take a look at the area that I am currently talking about, the area we're going to be working on today. This is it. If you remember, this whole area was overgrown in blackberry and all kinds of stuff. We came in, we redid these grapes the best we could. We're going to rehang them next year. I have all the stuff to rehang these properly so they are much neater and cleaner and easier to work with, but right now they're doing really good and they look good too. I mean, I'm not trying to brag or anything. For what we were working with, they're doing really good. Now, if you remember, I covered this area specifically, didn't put any seed down because I wanted to sterilize the soil the best I could. And it's been almost 3 months. I'd like to do it for a year, but 2 things. I need to put this tarp somewhere else. Also, we want to get in here and plant pumpkins and watermelon and squash and zucchini and cantaloupe, all that kind of stuff. That's all going to be going in here. Now, let's take a look underneath and I'll show you why I did what I did here and the type of tarp I'm using, because this isn't just a Home Depot black tarp. These are silage tarps or haylage tarps, and they are black on one side and white on the other, and they are much thicker. They also have a UV coating to help prevent them from breaking down. If you're squeamish, I'm just going to warn you, we're probably going to see a bunch of snakes and stuff in here. That's my guess, is we'll definitely see a few snakes. All right, so this is what this looks like. Let's get this tarp back. So this is what this ends up looking like. And you end up with a lot of dead weeds, a lot of these little millipedes, I'm not really sure what they're called, but we get a lot of those underneath here. Those help break down the organic matter that's here. So all the moisture that's here is moisture that has been trapped underneath these tarps because it hasn't been rained on in like 3 months. Even though we've had rain, I've kept the tarps. Now there has been water that has probably shedded downhill, definitely, but the sun also hasn't dried this out. So we have really nice soil here. When I was talking about sterilizing the soil, what we've done is all the seeds, or a lot of the seeds, that typically would be in here have sprouted. And they've put all their energy into coming up, but then there's nothing for them to come up to because there's no sunlight, there's just heat. And so across the whole entire area, we were gonna find a lot of this type of stuff. All these little white plants that, well, they would have been weeds. A lot of stuff that has sprouted and died off over and over again in the last 3 months. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna roll this up. We'll take a look at the whole area.
Well, as you can see, I have a lot more work in front of me, but I'm not gonna be able to get to that right now. I actually have 2 things I need to do in the short term. One of them is I need to go install the silage tarp in the new area. So we'll go do that right now. And the second thing is I'm actually gonna go pick up Herman because he's flying in today. So he'll be with us for a month, maybe 2, maybe 3. We'll see how long he feels like sticking around before he wants to go spend more time with his family down in California. It's kind of for him, you know, a bittersweet. He loves it up here, but he really likes being with family. And I can only give him so good of care here because I'm only here in the evenings and on the weekends. So that makes it a little bit more difficult for us to care for him in the way he really needs it because he's 93.
All right, so we've looked at this area. It's right next to Herman's cabin. This is where we have our potatoes, which are doing wonderful. And we also have this area. I had put a cover crop in here, and then I came in the other day and I leveled the ground out. It still had, from earlier in the season, had a lot of ruts and stuff in it from excavator and tractor work and all that kind of stuff. So I came in, I gave it a quick tilling, and then I used a harrow and I dragged it behind the quad and I leveled this out. The reason I did this, the way I did it, was because we were gonna be putting some raised beds in here. This is gonna be more like a victory garden in here. So we'll have like some potatoes, we'll have some raised beds, we'll have all kinds of little stuff in here. This will be an enjoyable little garden. We will get some production out of it, but for the most part, we're not gonna be looking at this as like a market garden type situation. So we're gonna bring a tarp in right now, and I'm gonna put the tarp down. That tarp is going to allow us to choke out any weeds, weed seeds, and stuff like that that are here. There are a lot of weed seeds here. When I say there's a lot, I'm classifying everything as a weed seed. And here's why I say that is Herman loved to broadcast seed. Because he harvested his own seed, when it came time to plant his garden, he would just walk down a row and he would just put kale seed out. And then he'd go back and thin it with a hoe, because that was easier than digging little rows and doing everything precisely, because he got his kale seed free. He did the same thing with butter lettuce, with orach, which is also called mountain spinach, with collard greens. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, Swiss chard. He did the same thing with Swiss chard. I can't think of anything else. I'm sure there's a few other things. So we have a lot of weeds in here, a lot. And that on top of all the other just normal weeds that you get in a garden, and in an area that was tilled over and over again for the last probably 30 years, this area definitely needs some help. So we're gonna come in, we're gonna put the plastic down, we're gonna help sterilize the soil here, and then we'll come in and put a cover crop in at some point in the future. Not sure when that's gonna happen. I'm not even sure exactly how we're gonna do the tarp here. I know I'm gonna get this zone, I'm gonna focus on this zone. That zone over there, I may come in and just put a cover crop in, like oats or something like that, really heavy, and then water them in really good so they take off. The only reason for doing that is I don't want to put two tarps in here. I have another spot I want to use the other tarp for. I'm gonna go get that tarp, we're gonna set up, and then we'll move on to the next area. This is the second spot we are gonna put a tarp down. Now, we have never seen this spot kind of like this before, because I just did this the other day. Let me show you what I did, I'll tell you all about it. What was here was 2 rows of figs. And these fig trees had died over the last, I wanna say 5-10 years. They just didn't do very good. So I came in here and I tilled. I know I keep talking about not wanting to till, and then I till. Well, I needed to, because this area was really rough. It was really gonna be hard to deal with this area. So I tilled it, then I came back through with a harrow and I ran the harrow over this and evened it out. But in between tilling and doing the harrow, I put a bunch of oats down. Now the oats I put down obviously are not gonna go to seed because they don't have enough moisture with the moisture in the ground. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in the haylage or silage tarp. We're gonna lay it down. I think it's gonna take 2, maybe 3 lengths to do this, but I only have 1 length, so we'll just do it a week at a time. We're just gonna lay it down for 1 week. The idea is to let the moisture underneath the ground start coming up, to get the seeds wet, get the seeds nice and warm. They'll sprout in a week and I'll pull it off, and then they'll be off to the races. And we'll do that down the whole hill. So as soon as you go down a few inches, you get moisture, tons of it. So we're gonna use the moisture in the soil to germinate the seeds along with the heat. They should germinate in about 4 to 5 days. That's my guess, somewhere in there. So let's get the tarp down, we'll get it rolled out, and then we'll be all set up. So I'm gonna stand here in the shade because it's kind of hot today. So we're doing all this work here for what reason? Well, I'm gonna come in and we're gonna put asparagus along this hillside all the way down. I'm gonna do them, I believe, in raised beds. I'm trying to figure this whole process out. I wanna make sure that we can have like a no-till compost type of situation that they're sitting in, that they're happy in, that go all the way down the hill. And then I can plant cover crops in between the raised beds, and those cover crops can then just get tossed over into the area that the asparagus are planted. That's kind of the idea, is that the ground next to the asparagus can feed the asparagus going forward, so we can mulch with clover or oat or whatever we plant in there. buckwheat, doesn't really matter, something, some type of cover crop that gets put in between the rows. And then we're gonna put our spacings between our raised beds wide enough to get a mower and a bag, or maybe a mower, and then we build like a custom little jig that kind of shoots the clippings over the side. I don't know, something like that. That's the idea. Now, why asparagus? Well, asparagus are a great thing to take to market, and I have a lot of space here to plant. So most people aren't gonna plant asparagus if they don't have space to plant, because you wanna put them in, you don't get anything for like the first 3 years. So I have plenty of space. So I'm gonna take advantage of my situation of having plenty of space to put something that I know will do really good here. I will need to irrigate them, but that's not gonna be a huge problem because we're gonna have a pond up top, we're gonna have a pond down here, we're gonna have water lines that come down the road, or on the edge of the road, I should say. And that will allow us to easily put some drip irrigation in and irrigate these. It won't be a big deal to irrigate these once a week, put an inch worth of water down once a week across the whole bed. That's gonna be an easy thing to do. That'll also allow us to plant other stuff in here as well, but the idea is to put asparagus in here. I'm putting this plastic down. It's going to help all the seeds that are underneath here germinate. So I will get my oats, I will get all the weed grasses, I'll get all that. That's fine. What we're doing here is not trying to sterilize the soil. We're trying to get the soil covered. What I don't want is I don't want all my soil nice and level and flattened out and then get a summer rain and I lose a bunch of soil that's nice and loose going down the hillside. I really want to have grasses, little root systems and all that kind of stuff going, and I want to have good, healthy soil going forward. And in the future, I won't till this again. So this won't get tilled again. There's no reason to till it. The ground's nice and level. It's going to be easy to build raised beds on, or to put compost or wood chips or cover crops or whatever we do. It's going to be really easy. All right, it is time to go pick up Herman, and then when we come back, if I have time, I'll do some planting. If not, then I'll do it tomorrow or the next day, and we'll be able to get our pumpkins and watermelons and squashes and melons and zucchini and all that good stuff planted in that field that I was just showing you a little bit ago. So as you can see, it is not the same day. Yes, I went and got Herman, brought him up, drove around with him, almost lost my voice yelling to him because he's so hard of hearing. I haven't seen him in 6 months, so I didn't have to yell at him nonstop for 6 months. So I guess my voice got softer over the last 6 months. So now my voice is a little raspy today because I spent like 3 hours yelling at him. In a good way, not abusive, like he just can't hear very well. We hoed this and then I ran it over with the harrow just to kind of break up just a little bit of the top stuff. There was some clumpy stuff. Not really trying to till it or anything, just kind of loosen stuff up. This has also been baking for like 3 months, 2 months, something like that. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna get in here, we're gonna plant. We're gonna start with watermelons, and we'll probably do some squashes, stuff like that. And when we're done, I'm gonna come back through and we're gonna cover this with oat. So we're gonna have like an oat cover crop, but it's gonna be thin. It's not gonna be super thick. It's just enough to help keep the ground covered. We're trying not to bleach the ground. A lot of the pumpkins and squashes, watermelons, melons, cantaloupe, all that kind of stuff is gonna help do the same thing. So I'm kind of treating those things like a cover crop that we'll get some yummy stuff off of, but we will also have a lot of good biomatter that we can basically chop and drop. It'll get chopped up, we'll run it over with the brush hog and we'll cover it again with plastic in the fall, and that'll help all that stuff break down, feed the worms, feed all the goodies under the ground, and we'll have better soil over the years. All right, let's get planting.
Yeah, you need to give them a good soaking when you got a plant.
Yep, that's the plan.
I helped Erica down there put in some tomatoes and squashes and peppers. And by golly, she told me today there she had peppers growing already.
Oh, good.
See, it's warm there, you know.
Yeah, it's warmer down in California.
About 70 today.
Well, they can start planting in like January, right? Yeah.
Sure.
If I plant in January, I won't have anything except for rotted seeds.
Well, Herman's back with us.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah, all right. Doing all right.
Herman watched us put all the plants in, so
Yeah.
we got a lot of watermelon and Hopi squash and all kinds of stuff in. Yeah.
You take good care of them, they do all right.
Yeah.
But soon as they get started, I would give them some of that liquid fertilizer you made.
Yeah. He's talking about the weed juice that I've been brewing up. I'll show it to you guys in another video, but I will put that down for sure. It's made of comfrey, stinging nettles, and some mint. And I'll show you the whole process of how you make it. But yeah, that's what he's talking about. We have some starts already that we started, and then there's a few that these aren't started by us, but I kept them in a pot until they got nice and big. These are 2 zucchini plants. And then we have watermelon, and then another row of watermelon. And this is zucchini and Hopi squash, and some more squashes and watermelon, and pumpkins, and melons. So we got a whole lot of area covered. That was all the seeds we had, and we had a lot of seeds. So it's all planted. We're watering it in right now. Run the sprinkler for probably about an hour or two, and then I'll move it down and run it for another hour or two. We also put in oats, and the idea with the oats is just so we have something else growing here. It's gonna take a while for the vines and leaves to get big enough to really start choking out everything else. And so the oats will help. So this is really a cover crop, an edible cover crop. But, and it's gonna be beautiful. We're gonna have a lot of fun with it this summer. All right, we're all done. The boys are having fun with Uncle Herman again, because he's just gotten back and they're having a blast. They came up today and brought him lunch and dinner, and they're having a good time. Earlier they were wrestling a little with him. They love having somebody grandfatherly around that they can do that with. All right, we'll see you guys on another day, and thank you for joining us. Have a good one. Bye.